I was debating as to whether or not to bring this up because I'm just not even a fan of either one of these guys. But, you know, it was interesting. And the reason why I bring it up, basically, you and I were talking about TikTok and the power that one person could have over a social media thing. But did you happen to catch any of the Don Lemon and Elon Musk interview?
Oh, well, Elon walked off? Or was
Well, he didn't walk off. So
what happened?
What happened was, and you know, Don Lemon seems okay enough, but you know, I might just have this thing against, you know, because you know me with cable news. I just had this thing, you know, with him and then Chris Cuomo during that too. I didn't like it because it just sounded. I don't know. It didn't seem to me. They both seemed, you know, a little condescending at times. They seemed, you know, and Hugh certainly was condescending to Elon, which that I didn't mind. But here's what the reason too, what bothers me about Don Lemon is, you know, you could tell, you know, Don's not going to come out and tell you, you know, what his politics are, because that's not his job. He's a journalist, right. And he, you know, but you have a feeling of which way he leans. Right. And so Elon Musk in this, what I think is a phony effort to get people to get on X, right, because he wants to diversify, and he wants to have both sides on his platform. That's really not, in my opinion, what it's about. It's about that he wants to bring these advertisers back that left his platform because he espouses racism and all this stuff. Right. And that the fact that somebody like Don Lemon would get in bed with Elon Musk.
Yeah, weird.
I'm not a fan of that. I don't like it. You know, so they apparently got together and said that you will be now on X, your new Don Lemon show. Right. Now it's not exclusive to X. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify, whatever. But they did this 1 hour interview. And Elon did not like the questions. He did not like how he's being pressed. And immediately afterwards, dismantled the contract with X. So the free speech advocate, the guy who wants free speech on his platform, does not like free speech when it comes to himself. But I have a couple of clips from the show. So if you have not seen any of these, you know, it'll be interesting to see your reaction. The first clip I'm going to play is Don asked Elon about race in this country and his views on race. And Elon responds probably how you would think he does.
Right.
Do you have any desire to understand what many people of color and even trans people, how they feel about this country and how they're treated in this country? If they say and they believe that they are treated a certain way in this country, why don't you believe them?
You cannot have a situation where someone is a self-described victim and they just get to be that because that's how they feel.
See, first, that's the trope, is that they're a self-described. Everybody says, well, I'm a victim because I am speaking out against injustices, whether it's against my race, whether it's against my gender, whether it's against whatever the case is. That's the white guy trope, is that you guys just want to play victim and use this as the race card. Mona, any thoughts?
No.
You want to watch the rest of the clip?
I just immediately think about Trump. He's like, is that what you call him, Donald Trump? A self-described victim? Because that's the guy that's a self-described victim.
And that's why, because I watched the entire interview, and you know, Don Lemon is talking to a big dummy here. Now, people would look at me and go, wait, how could you call Elon Musk a dummy? He's the richest man in the world.
It doesn't mean anything.
He's the second richest man in the world. How can he be dumb? So I work in sales, right? And I've worked in sales for over 20 years. I can sit down and I can talk to doctors. I could talk to some of the most intellectual and smartest people on the planet. But there are a lot of things that they are fucking stupid about. And Elon Musk, about stuff like this, is a big dummy. He doesn't know shit. He thinks he knows stuff. He's
Right.
the guy's from South Africa, you know, and I'm not saying he doesn't know it because he's from South Africa, but he's from a part of the world
part of the
that doesn't
reason.
have the greatest reputation.
Right.
You know, so anyway, he's a big dummy, and I think Don could have beaten him up a little bit more. I think sometimes he fumbled a little bit, but sometimes he did good. But anyway, let's listen to the rest of this interview.
I think that does happen in some cases, but not all cases. And I think that not understanding the history of the country, I think, is a real shame. Look,
we should understand the history of the country and other countries.
I've had incredible opportunities as a person of color.
Right.
But I've also
been very well.
But I've also been discriminated against, and I know that I have. And I know that that's real. And for someone to say that that isn't happening, I should just move forward and not think about that and ignore the past, is insulting.
I'm not saying it. Don, you keep putting words in my mouth. I'm not saying it.
I didn't say that you said it.
I'm saying that we want to. We as a country should move beyond the questions of race and gender, and we should treat people like individuals and base our opinions on them on the, you know, their character and their skills.
I don't think that anyone will disagree with that.
Exactly.
All I'm saying is that that's not happening and is not equal for everyone. That those opportunities don't happen for everyone. And I am a living example that they don't. I know that they don't because I live it.
You've been incredibly successful.
I have been, and in spite of it all. But I know what I know. I've experienced what I've experienced. You haven't done that, and I cannot. I don't know what it's like to be from South Africa. I don't know what it's like to be a white man. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a Latino person. I don't know that, so I wouldn't speak for them and just say, you need to move on. That's not for me to say. I believe that it would be great if the country could live up to that ideal.
All right, Lana, I want to get your thoughts.
I don't even know what the thought about which part. Elon is really... Elon's an idiot. He doesn't even know how to talk about this stuff. He's like pulling out. He's like, what did Dr. King say? Character, right? Let me mention character in my answer. Like, he didn't even know what to say. Like, he stumbled all over a simple question. It's like, you're putting words in my mouth. I'm not telling you to move on. You've done well for yourself. It's like,
but he did say that in the interview, is that, you know, we need to move on. And, you know, I don't know. I'm a white guy. I don't know if that's to move on. I mean, this coming from the same group of people, or the people who worship Elon Musk, can't move on from one transgender person drinking a beer on her Instagram. I mean, when are we going to move on from that?
But how do you move on? How do you move on from a social construct? How do you move on from that? Yeah. How do you move on from a system that is in place? Like, you can't move on. The system is still in place. It's impossible to move on. It's absolutely impossible.
I think, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of people in the position that Elon Musk takes, they think because we've seen vast improvement in the country in, you know, in racial issues. I mean, obviously there's been, you know, from slavery up until today, there's been, you know, a lot of advances, but I think because they think those advances are where they're satisfied with it, that now we should just move on, where maybe not everybody that, again, like Don Lemon said at the end of that clip, which I always say, this is something I always say, and this is how I personally look at it. I personally look at it when I don't walk in the shoes of the people who are considered, not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Marginalized?
You know, marginalized. You know, that for me to state a solid opinion on how this should go, to me is, I don't know. I find that wrong.
Right. And they're wrong for thinking just because there are Black millionaires that it's equal, because it's not equal, because we still don't have the same amount of Black millionaires. It's still hard for people of color to get loans and open businesses because of the system, because they are treated differently, because if they think that you are a person of color, you may or may not get a loan. You experience racism even if you're rich, because who even knows? It's your skin. You can't run away from the color of your skin. Even LeBron James, we always used to say this thing, like he had the N-word sprayed all over his mansion because he dared speak out against racism. And then what happens? He gets attacked like that. The money doesn't matter. You still experience that, and it still is painful. Regardless, you don't have the money, but like, yeah, call me the N-word all you want. That is still painful. Oprah Winfrey had the same experience over in Europe when they what they think she was stealing a purse or what. In one of those stores, she had a racism issue, because they didn't know who she was. She's a black lady, right? So come on. It's just...
Yeah, I think, you know, first of all, there's this idea because you have a lot of money that you don't feel the same human emotions that everybody else does. But again, that's beside the whole point of this, is that not recognizing it or not. And again, I think, you know, there's a conflation here too. I think that they think that, you know, everybody is just supposed to lay down and say, you know, okay, what are we doing wrong? It's not about that. It's at least just acknowledging and recognizing that there are issues, and what can we do to solve those? I mean, it just comes down to
solve those if they still want to keep statues up from the Confederacy. Like,
we won't.
It's just so ridiculous to say, oh, well, what are you complaining about? We're fucking complaining because I can't even find, let me, just a perfect example. I can be on Twitter, and then I go to find a GIF. And if I put in fight, I see black girls everywhere.
Yeah.
Black girls taking earrings off, everything.
Mm-hmm.
If I put something in that says you're welcome, or something just as simple and nice, I can't find a black woman. I have to go to the bottom. There may be one or two, but anything negative kind of trope, that's in there for black women, or slang words, girl, sis, all in there.
Yeah, and that's something that you experience. And the fact that somebody wouldn't listen to that and wouldn't at least acknowledge it as something like, you know, again, that's where, you know, it's not going to be ever solved. So, you know, it's not a matter of playing victim. It's just a matter of expressing some feelings. You know, even in that interview, Elon had referred to depression that he suffers, and that he had a bad childhood and stuff like that. So, you know, maybe he would be able to get a glimpse if somebody said, fuck your childhood, you know, who cares about your childhood? You're playing victim. You know, I don't know.
I wouldn't say play victim, but I would say his version of a bad childhood would be what he didn't get the car that he wanted.
No, I mean, and maybe it's possible he had a very bad mom, very bad dad. Who knows? I don't know. And I think he says he writes about it in his book, but you know, and I have no interest in reading Elon Musk's book. I mean, you know, I know there's some things that he does in the world that could be considered good, but the bad for me outweighs it for him, because he owns the probably #1 platform in this country for social media, as far as the public square, if you want to call it that. And he is espousing literally every day on his own with his multi-millions of followers, you know, just either anti-democratic, anti-race, you know, just all this kind of stuff. And Don Lemon calls him out for it on some of that, but I didn't want to play too many clips. There's another one here. This is which one is this? Oh, so Elon has this idea that and he posted a video, and I'll play the video too. In fact, let me play the video first. This is a video he posted on his
Open Borders plan to entrench single-party rule, explained in under 2 minutes. 1.
I just want to make clear, this is something that he posted today or yesterday, one of the 2 days, on his social media on Twitter.
Flood the country with untold millions of illegals by land, sea, and air from all over the world. Enough to eclipse the populations of 36 individual U.S. states so far. 2. Prioritize the needs of these millions of non-citizens over the needs of the American citizen, with free flights, buses, hotels, meals, and phones.
Keep in mind, this is a Democratic plan.
Ensuring their loyalty to the political party that imported them. 3. Keep them in the country at all costs, even when they commit violent crime like murder.
Of course,
Lana
and I are all for
used
that.
To describe the criminals, as opposed to the criminals themselves. Slander critics as racist. 4. Ensure their privileges are made irrevocable with city and state sanctuary laws that act as population magnets. Codify permanent status and ensure non-cooperation with ICE. 5. Count the non-citizens in the census that will determine congressional apportionment in the House of Representatives. As of now, that would equal 13 extra congressional districts, a tremendous amount of electoral power. 6. Wage a massive, heavily funded lawfare campaign to change state voting laws that legalize mass mail-in ballots, no signature verification, and no proof of citizenship requirements, making it nearly impossible to prove voter fraud. 7. Lock in the permanent voting majority with campaign promises of lavish benefits and permanent privileges, enshrining generational fealty to the Democrat Party. 8. Win elections. 9. Entrenched single-party rule has been achieved.
Okay.
The best part? Your tax dollars are paying for it.
So that didn't come from Steve Bannon. That didn't even come from Donald Trump. That was posted. Now, Elon didn't create this video, but he posted this to his multi-million. What do you think of that plan? Do you think it's a good one?
I think, what is wrong with these people? Like, what is wrong with these people? Like, what? You're watching that and you're like, yeah, that's what they want. Like,
well, they have the deep voice guy, they have the scary voice, the scattered video, almost like the Joker is breaking in the middle of your
crazy. But you can also see how somebody could get radicalized so easily and want to pick up a gun and be like, yeah, they're calling them illegals, they're showing the black people, they're showing the brown people. Hey, do white people not stay over their visas here in this country? Like, because why are we always showing these? Like, there aren't any white illegals, quotes. Like, what is this?
So,
it's so ridiculous.
Right. Well, Don Lemon asked him something in in the video. One of the things, I believe it was number 5. And this was the idea that we let in non-citizens. So I had to look this up because I wasn't that, versed in it, but that basically the non-citizens count towards the census. So when they have these non-citizens in particular cities, that it could affect the amount of House seats that each state gets. So if you have more illegal or undocumented immigrants in particular areas, that could help Democratic states get more House seats because the census and the population. But do you want to say something, or do you want to listen to this clip first?
Okay. I don't know. Because it doesn't make sense, like what you just said.
But so what he's trying to say is not true, and I'm gonna point that out here in a second. But I mean, the part that is true is that House seats can be added or subtracted based on the population of whatever state it is. And they're saying basically because Democrats are shuffling in all these illegals in blue states, that what they're doing is they're adding House seats. And the reason why they can add House seats.
We are shuffling them to blue states. That's what we're doing. So we're the ones that are going to Texas when they cross the border,
put them on buses,
deal with Abbott, right, and putting them on buses and say, "Hey, bring them to New York," an already solidly blue state.
Right. Well, listen, maybe because you haven't heard the clip, and maybe Elon can explain it, and maybe it'll help Elon to understand. Right. And let's see if his explanation makes any sense for you.
Yeah.
Talk about the Great Replacement Theory now.
Spoiler alert, I saw it already. It won't make sense, but
some of the things that you post, the Great Replacement Theory, you claim that Democrats, President Biden's immigration plan to open up the border, you said that the president is getting, and Democrats are doing it to get more votes. But undocumented immigrants cannot vote in federal elections, so how is that possible?
That's true.
Right. Well, you're conflating two things. One is great replacement theory. The other is, which I don't subscribe to that. I'm simply...
First of all, the great replacement theory, part of the great replacement theory is, anybody of color or any different ethnicity is replacing white people. So
exactly.
That's exactly what the great replacement theory is. He says he doesn't subscribe to it, although if I'm not mistaken, he has tweeted about it before, maybe retweeted some. Well, Tucker Carlson's his buddy, who that is, his number one thing is the great replacement theory. But we're going to give Elon the opportunity to maybe convince Alana that he might be right. Play. Come on. Come on.
Come on, Elon, because we want to hear the rest of this nonsense.
I know. Your face is...
Oh, God, I know. That's
There's an incentive here. If legal immigrants, which I think have a very strong bias to, at least everything I've read, it's a very strong bias to vote Democrat. The more that come into the country, the more they're likely to vote in that direction. But it is, in my view, a simple incentive to increase voters, Democrat voters. So the question is like how?
I don't want to pause it because I'm afraid it's going to take a while to start up again.
This works. One is that when the census is done, the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not.
It's true.
So if there are a concentration of people who came here illegally in a particular state or in a particular state, that state will actually then get an increased number of House seats.
True.
So the House seat apportionment is proportionate to the number of people, not the number of citizens.
True.
So the illegals overwhelmingly go to places like California and New York, and if you just look at the math, if you look at the apportionment with and without illegals, I believe California would lose. I believe the blue state, there would be a net loss of blue states of approximately 20 seats in the House. This also applies to the Electoral College. So you say, like, well, this also applies to electing the president, because the electoral votes are also done by apportionment the same way that House seats are done.
But spiraling a little bit.
The Electoral College is in place is to balance that, so that doesn't happen. So
all right, so they kind of get into a discussion about the Electoral College, which is not really part of what we're talking about here. But first of all, I'll let you speak, Alana, but one thing I just want to say, does it surprise you that a particular party that is welcoming you into the country may side with you? And I really don't think, in fact, there's a lot of immigrants that come to the country that do not vote Democrat. There are a lot of people from other countries, in fact, socialist countries, who believe that Joe Biden wants to go back to where their country was and completely votes against that. But what are your thoughts on, did he convince you?
No, and the other piece, because he's talking about the census part of it. I mean, one, you got to get people to fill out the census, which
true.
Go figure that.
Right.
And that's how, there's a few parts to it. This is how they, didn't count the communities of color, right? Because communities of color did not know that you needed to fill out the census because your community gets money and programs and things like that from it, and some house seats or whatever, right? They didn't know. So for years and years and years, people of color were not filling out those censuses, right? And
there was a time in this country they weren't even considered one full person.
That too, right?
Yeah.
And here's the other piece, Elon Musk. So you can count and talk about, immigrants are coming into the blue populations, whatever, bullshit. Abbott and DeSantis are bringing them there. Mm-hmm. The other piece is that with the disproportionate arrest of Black and brown people and putting them into jail, you are taking particularly Black men out of those same communities and holding them in jail. Wherefore, they are not counted on anyone's census. What they are counted in the jails that you make, and make sure that you put those jails. I don't know about any other state, but I know in Massachusetts, jails are in the suburbs. put them out way out in the suburbs. So those suburbs get the benefits because they count them as being housed where? In the suburbs.
Right. And then, that's not even a point that I thought of. But there are other points that, I kind of did some research on this. And here's a surprising fact that Elon may not have known. This happened in 2021. Texas picks up 2 House seats in newest census, while Democratic stronghold states lose out. New York needed just 90 more or 89 more people counted in the census not to lose a House seat, the Bureau said. It also goes on to say, they talked about the winners. They also say the losers were concentrated in the industrial Midwest, with Illinois, Michigan, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio each losing a seat. Democratic strongholds, California and New York, each lost a seat. Census officials said New York would not have lost its seat if 89 more people lived there. So the same theory that he is saying benefits the Democrats,
right,
benefited the Republicans in that time. There's also one more thing that I'd like to point out that if you'd like to take a look with me here, Lana, that for somebody that wants the undocumented immigrants in this country to help them win House seats because of the census, the Biden administration ramped up deportations. Why would you want to deport anybody that's going to help you?
That piece too, Brian, right? Like this deporting people like crazy, more than Donald Trump did.
Now, there's no question that there are more undocumented people that have crossed the border probably over these last few years than it has in a long time. Now, from what I saw, is 2007 was the peak where there was over 12 million. Right now, I think we're at about 11. So we're not even at the peak of the amount of undocumented immigrants. I was also reading an article too that's saying, the cost benefits of the undocumented immigrants in this country, actually saves a lot of money in this country. Now, it can cost taxpayers a certain amount, that's for sure. And if you want to be upset about that, that's fine. You could be upset about that. But, there are a million different ways and things that our taxes are going to, like a Hunter Biden investigation that's going nowhere, stupid things that our tax money is going to, that they should be upset about too. But they've decided that only the immigrants being here is the only thing that they're pissed off about.
Yeah, that's why, because either they need to be sent home or they need to be processed so they can start working and paying into Social Security.
Yeah, right.
I mean, because a lot of states lost a lot of people from COVID. Y'all need workers. That's why you're trying to put kids to work right now, because you don't have anyone to do the jobs. Immigrants need to come in. Like, why are we forgetting that that's what happens here in America? Like, what happened?
It's not even a matter of forgetting. It's just something that they just never knew. And now they've been told this. So now it's just something that they have to ride with. One last thing I want to read. I took a quick picture of it, and it's not necessarily 100% on what this is, but just this idea that we have undocumented immigrants coming here and voting in droves to help Democrats win elections, which they legally are not even allowed to do that.
Right.
This is from the Conservative Heritage Foundation, which, if you are familiar with how awful they are, in fact, they are part of the ones behind that Project 2025. By the way, Lana, I started reading that. It's 900 pages long. I'm about 50 pages in, and I'm going to read it. It is scary. It's crazy, but and I'm just 50 pages in. Now it's 900 pages.
Get to the alligators and the moats.
We didn't get to that part. I didn't get to that chapter yet. But because it's 900 pages long and I've got 1,000 different books that I'm halfway through reading, it's a good possibility I will not read the whole thing. And it's a good possibility if I did, probably will be 2025 before I get to the end of it. But this is from the Heritage Foundation. They maintain a database since 1979. This, again, if you don't know who the Heritage Foundation is, they're about as far right as it gets.
Look at the Supreme Court. That's who they are.
Right. Exactly. They appoint Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
They say it includes a sampling of election fraud cases brought by prosecutors. In that period, about 2 billion votes have been cast in federal elections, according to the calculation for the fact checker by the Brennan Center for Justice. A recent search of the Heritage database found 85 cases involving allegations of non-citizen voting from 2002 to 2023. 85 out of billions of votes. A total of
decade.
85
you
have
said
been found.
2002 to 2023, so
that
11 years?
That is correct. That is 21 years of voting.
21 years, sorry. 21 years.
85 cases. But Donald Trump, all he's got to do is say at his rally.
2 decades. That wouldn't even be bad in 1 year, to be honest with you, in the whole of America. Like, I don't know.
That in 1 year, you'd be like 85. That's it?
Yeah, exactly.
21 years. And again, this comes directly from the Heritage Foundation. So but Donald Trump will tell his rally goers, because he lost by 7 million votes, well, clearly those had to be undocumented, or as he calls them, illegals, that shouldn't be here, that are in there voting, and right. Democrats let them do it.
Right.
Right.
It is what it is, man. Vote. Everybody vote. Just gotta vote.
You know what? First, like and subscribe to this video. Then we can think about voting. But right now, smashing that thumbs up button is probably the most important thing you can do right now.
Let's get it. Thumbs up. Let's